Tornadoes are last of our part of our severe weather series. And as we saw in that meeting we had, one of my greatest fears. So this is a picture of a very traditional tornado. You got that kind of cone-shaped cylinder reaching into the earth. As you can see here, it's white and black, but really it all depends on whatever the color of the tornado depends upon what is actually being sucked up into the tornado. So if you have a lot of red clay that's being sucked up, you're going to have something that has a bit of a reddish tint to it. Right here it looks like Midwest, probably a lot of good black soil being sucked up into it, so you got that color going on. These aren't situations that happen continuously. They only happen about 1% of all thunderstorms. This basic definition is a small spinning column of air that has high wind speeds and low central pressure that touches the ground. And as you can see here, the biggest area that gets it is an area called Tornado Alley. And I've lived in Tornado Alley. I lived in Nebraska briefly. Tornado Alley actually has everything you need to get tons of tornadoes. It's got warm, moist air that likes to slide up in there from the Gulf. It's got cold, dry air coming in from Canada. It's got warm, dry air coming in from Mexico. It's got a jet stream that likes to slide in there and pull all these items together. And what you have right here are the ingredients necessary to have some nasty thunderstorms. When you have different air masses and meet, you do get the fronts occurring, and you get some very big and nasty thunderstorms, which can lead to your tornadoes. So this is like, it's got the trifecta of bad stuff occurring right in this area. Most form from thunderstorms. You need warm, moist air from the Gulf of Mexico and cool, dry air from Canada. And when these two air masses meet, as I said, they create instability in the atmosphere. So I got the definition for instability because remember that's also what you need for thunderstorms. Changes in wind direction and increases in wind speed with increasing height create a spinning effect in the lower atmosphere. And as this actually rises and tilts from horizontal to vertical, that's when you get your tornado. And guys, remember, I am moving through this in a fast way. You can stop this recording at any time to get your notes. What's crazy is, you don't really think about it, you find these just about everywhere in the world. Australia's had them, Europe has had them, not that you really hear about them, but they do have them. Africa, Asia, South America, and even New Zealand has about 20 tornadoes each year. Unfortunately, we are like one of the highest groups, us and Argentina and Bangladesh of all places. About 1,200 tornadoes hit the U.S. yearly. Tornado records haven't been kept officially, only date back to around 1950. So we don't know the actual average number of tornadoes that occur each year up until, well, we do know, but not until 1950. And also keep in mind, tornado spotting and reporting methods have changed heavily over the years. Now that we have radar, the tornado spotting can actually be done using radar. It doesn't actually have to be eye spotting. So we do have tornado seasons in the year. These are areas when you do tend to have more tornadoes than others. And keep in mind, just because if you're not in tornado season in your area does not mean that you cannot have a tornado. There have been tornadoes that have spawned in February, which is definitely not tornado season. So don't think you're out of the woods just because you're not in tornado season. So if you're living in the Southern Plains, it is peak seasons between May and early June. If you're on the Gulf Coast, it's earlier during the spring. If you're in the Northern Plains and Upper Midwest, it's between June or July. But remember, once again, tornadoes can happen at any time of the day, any time of the year, day or night. But most tornadoes actually do occur between 4 and 9. And that's because of the heat issue. You have rising warm air, sinking cool air. You have most of your heat at that point during the day. So you tend to have, this is where you tend to have your tornadoes between 4 and 9. But once again, it can happen at midnight. It can happen at 3 a.m., 12 o'clock, noon. So keep that in mind. Just don't assume because it's not between 4 and 9 that everything's good. They use a Fujita scale, and now they use actually what they call an enhanced Fujita scale. It's actually named after a Japanese scientist who came over here to actually just study tornadoes. It was his thing. So you have EF 0 and EF1. That tends to be what we have here in North Carolina. We don't have the massive strong ones so much. I think when I was doing a look over the last 10 years, I think maybe we had 1 or 2 at an EF3. It was pretty minimal. So most of ours are relatively small. If you get out to Oklahoma, Texas, in those areas, you can EF4s, EF5s, and those things are monsters. So you can see here where you see most of the tornadoes. And once again, if you look towards this area here, Tornado Alley, look at that. Look at those nice red colors. And here's Oklahoma. A lot of homes in Oklahoma are actually built with rooms that are where they're considered tornado safe places that you go into. They can withstand those type of winds because they have so many. And here's us. Not much of anything, which is good. I'm all about that. It's one of the things I loved when I moved here. Less tornadoes. And this is where I lived before. And here's Indiana, I believe. Yeah. And once again, I moved to an area that had lots of tornadoes. It sucked. Here's your fatalities. This is not how many they have. This is how many end up dying. So, if you look at Oklahoma, which has a lot of tornadoes, Texas has lots of tornadoes, they actually have fewer deaths because they have so many. People take warnings. They believe it when they say there's one coming. They prep. They have rooms they go to, safe places they go to. They're ready for it. And you look at areas that have fewer, like us, or Tennessee. These guys here, we still have the same as Oklahoma. But ours are lower and fewer. But we still have the same amount of fatalities. And I think it's because we don't have these safe rooms or safe places to go. We're not prepped for it. We don't think about it. And then people end up dead because of that. You can see here tornado deaths. And look at how things have decreased over the years. And a lot of that has to do with technology. Having Doppler radar has made a huge difference in getting the word out, because sometimes even a couple of minutes warning, heck, even a minute warning can allow you a chance to get to that downstairs bathroom or that downstairs closet and get those pillows on top of you and get yourself into a safe place. And these are April tornadoes by states. So here's a big one I want to push for you. What's the difference between a watch and a warning? Because people don't realize there is a difference. Watch basically means that conditions are favorable. It doesn't mean anything's been spotted out there. It just means that, things are good for it. It could happen. So keep an eye out. Listen to the radio. Maybe have an app on your phone that will send you some information if there's a warning. But if you do hear the word warning, that means there has been one spotted, either by eye or by radar or by both. That means one is on the ground. That means you need to get to a safe place. Take cover. Have an action plan. Know what you're doing. Just don't hang out and have fun. So what should you do safety-wise? Get to the lowest floor. If you have a basement, basement's rock. If you don't, go to a small interior room. You want as many walls between you and flying debris as possible. So something that doesn't have windows, because remember, flying glass is never good on a person's body. So if you got the interior closet, interior bathroom, get in there, throw some pillows on top of yourself. If there's a bathtub in there, get in that bathtub, throw pillows on top of yourself, and hunker down. If you're in a mobile home, get out and take shelter in a sturdy building or a storm shelter. A lot of Midwestern plain states have storm shelters and mobile home communities. We generally don't here. If not, get into that interior room again. It's not a good place to be in a mobile home. If you are in a vehicle, get out and into a sturdy shelter. If not, get into a low spot and cover your head. Do remember, if you're in a vehicle, vehicles fly with tornadoes. And don't try to outrun it. Tornadoes go really fast, a lot of them, and they also can pull up and then come back down, and you can't predict where they're going to come back down. Trying to outrun is probably not a smart move. So get into a low-lying areas or find shelter someplace. As I said, stay away from windows, go to the center of the basement, under a sturdy table, into your room, closet, or bathroom. Blankets and pillows if you have time. Do what you need to do to stay safe. Myths and truths. It's always cool here. Take a look through these. The biggest one here that my mom always did was the belief that tornadoes are going to cause your house to blow up. And I remember whenever we had a tornado warning in Memphis, the sirens would sound, the school sirens. I've never even heard them used here, but these were sirens. I think they were used during the Cold War. Every Saturday at noon, they would test them, and these would go off. And then we had a school like right by our house, so it was really creepy to hear these sirens go off. And when they did, Mom would hit the bathroom and a couple of the other rooms and crack the windows, because she wanted to make sure pressure would be equalized, and that was a complete, utter myth. The tornadoes don't cause homes to blow up due to unequal pressure. It's the tornado itself that blows the home to pieces. So don't try to do that. Tell your grandma, your mom, old wives' tale, don't do it. And when you do watch films and you're thinking, oh, that could never happen. Tornadoes are one of those storms where if you hear something crazy, could be. It really could be. You can see up the top picture there, that's a tractor that got wrapped around a tree. And you can see the bike down there that's in a tree. Look at that home, and look at that school bus right there. I've seen pictures where all the feathers have been yanked off a chicken, and the chicken's rear end is naked. Not a good thing to ever see. But I've seen pictures of that. I've seen pictures of a mini grand piano that was lifted out of a home and set in the middle of a cornfield. And it was damaged, but you could tell it was a baby grand, and it looked like an old baby grand kind of hanging out in a cornfield. I mean, it was crazy. I've seen pieces of hay that have been literally, with the wind speeds, have been slammed into a tree. Kind of like throwing a knife, you know how a knife sticks into a tree? I've seen pieces of hay in a tree that way. So the winds are so strong that it does that. It's one of the reasons you actually want as many walls between you and the outside, because boards can come flying, bricks can come flying, pieces of hay can come flying, and you don't want that stuff at you because these are incredible winds. So you want to have as much protection as possible. All right. Hope you enjoyed it.